There are seasons in life when God feels silent, when doors close instead of opening, when prayers seem to echo back unanswered. You worship, you believe, you serve, yet nothing changes. This is not abandonment. This is not delay. This is development. God does his deepest work in the dark. Just as a seed must be buried before it can rise, there are moments when God hides you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Darkness is not the absence of God. It is often the evidence that he is working very closely. When God develops you in the dark, he is shaping your faith beyond emotions, beyond applause, beyond visible results. He is teaching you to walk by the Spirit and not by sight. Heaven is quiet not because nothing is happening, but because something sacred is forming. There are seasons when life feels like a closed classroom with no windows, no noise, no audience, just you, your thoughts, and God. In those moments, it feels uncomfortable, even frightening, because everything familiar is taken away. The applause stops, the encouragement fades, the signs disappear. And yet, this is where God teaches his most important lessons. The dark is not a punishment, it is a training room. Just like a student is separated from distractions to learn deeply, God often separates you from comfort so he can speak clearly. When nothing around you is working, God is working on you. This is where shallow faith turns into strong faith, and borrowed belief becomes personal conviction. Think about a student preparing for an important exam. The room is quiet, the phone is switched off, friends are not around, and the door is closed. In that silence, real learning happens. No one celebrates the hours spent studying alone, but those hours decide the future. In the same way, God's classroom is quiet. He removes noise so you can hear his voice. He removes people so you can depend on him. He removes ease so you can discover strength you never knew you had. Many people want promotion, but they resist preparation. Yet God knows that without the classroom of darkness, the success you desire would destroy you instead of blessing you. In daily life, you see this truth everywhere. A child learning to walk must fall many times, often crying alone on the floor, before standing confidently. An athlete trains early in the morning when the stadium is empty, sweating in silence long before winning medals in front of crowds. A seed is buried in dark soil, covered and unseen, before it breaks open and grows into a tree that gives fruit to many. No seed complains about the darkness, because the darkness is what activates its potential. In the same way, God buries you not to end you, but to grow you. What feels like being hidden is actually being planted. When God places you in his classroom, he is teaching lessons that cannot be learned in comfort. He teaches patience when answers are delayed. He teaches humility when recognition is absent. He teaches obedience when instructions don't make sense. He teaches faith when feelings are gone. Anyone can praise God when prayers are answered quickly, but only a trained believer can trust God when heaven seems silent. The dark classroom teaches you to walk by faith and not by sight, to rely on the Holy Spirit and not on emotions. Many people look back at their lives and realize that the most painful seasons were also the most formative ones. The job rejection that forced you to grow skills you never planned to learn. The loneliness that pushed you into prayer instead of people. The failure that humbled you and reshaped your priorities. The delay that protected you from entering something before you were ready. At the time, it felt like loss. Later, it revealed itself as instruction. God was teaching you discipline, wisdom, and dependence. Things no sermon alone could teach in the dark classroom. God also reveals who you really are. When no one is watching, when no one is praising, when there is no reward in sight, your true heart is exposed. Do you still pray? Do you still serve? Do you still believe? This is not for God to find out. He already knows. It is for you to discover the depth of your own faith. Many people follow God for blessings, but in the dark, you learn to follow him for who he is. That shift changes everything. There are lessons God will never teach you in public success. Some truths are too deep for crowds and too sacred for noise. They can only be whispered in solitude. In those moments, God is shaping your inner life, aligning your thoughts, correcting your motives, and strengthening your spiritual foundation. He is building you from the inside out, because public victories without private strength lead to public collapse. The dark classroom protects you from becoming strong on the outside and weak on the inside. When you understand that the dark is God's classroom, you stop panicking and start learning. You stop complaining and start listening. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is God teaching me here? Every delay becomes a lesson. Every closed door becomes instruction. Every lonely night becomes a lecture in faith, endurance, and trust. And slowly, quietly, without announcement, you begin to change, grow, and mature in ways that no visible success could ever produce. There are moments when you pray and heaven feels quiet, when you speak words of faith and hear no echo back, when you wait for a sign and nothing moves. In those moments, the heart whispers dangerous questions. Did God forget me? Did I do something wrong? Is He still there? But silence does not mean absence. Silence often means attention. A doctor does not talk while performing surgery. A teacher does not speak during an exam. A parent watches closely when a child takes their first steps without help. Silence is not neglect, it is focus. In daily life, silence often carries more meaning than noise. Think about a mother watching her child learn to ride a bicycle. She lets go, steps back, and says nothing. The child wobbles, panics, and almost falls, thinking they've been abandoned. But the mother is right there, eyes fixed, ready to catch if needed. Her silence is not lack of love, it is trust. God's silence works the same way. When He is quiet, He is trusting the faith He has already placed inside you. Many people mistake God's quietness for distance, but closeness does not always speak. Sometimes presence is proven by stability, not sound. The sun does not make noise, yet it rises every morning. Roots grow silently, yet they hold entire trees upright. The heart beats quietly, yet it sustains life. If God were absent, things would collapse. The fact that you are still standing, still breathing, still hoping, even weakly, is evidence that God is nearer than you think. Consider a student sitting in an exam hall. The teacher who guided them all year now stands silent at the front. No hints, no reminders, no encouragement, not because the teacher doesn't care, but because this is the moment for the student to apply what they have learned. The silence is proof that preparation has already taken place. In the same way, God's silence often means He has already spoken enough for this stage. What He placed in you earlier is now being tested and strengthened. In relationships, silence can be misunderstood too. A mature friend does not constantly reassure you of loyalty. They show up when it matters. They stay consistent. They don't disappear when things get uncomfortable. God's presence works like that. He may not always give you emotional confirmation, but His faithfulness remains steady. Just because you don't feel Him does not mean He left. Feelings change. Presence does not. There are seasons when God answers prayers instantly, and there are seasons when He answers by shaping you instead of changing the situation. Silence is often the language of transformation. While you are asking God to move mountains, He may be teaching you how to climb. While you are asking Him to remove pressure, He may be strengthening your capacity. While you are waiting for words, He is building endurance. Growth is quiet work. Think of a farmer who plants seeds and then waits. After planting, there is no immediate sign of life. The soil looks unchanged. The field appears empty. But underground, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming. Systems are developing. Life is organizing itself. If the farmer panicked because the field was silent and kept digging up the seed to check, growth would be destroyed. Trust requires patience with silence. God often asks you to trust what you cannot hear yet. Silence also reveals what your faith is built on. If you only believe when you feel God, your faith is rooted in emotion. But when you trust Him even when you feel nothing, your faith becomes grounded in truth. This kind of faith is unshakable. It does not depend on circumstance, ease, moods, or outcomes. It stands firm because it knows that God's character does not change with volume in daily struggles. Silence teaches you to listen differently. You begin to notice small mercies you once ignored. The strength to get through the day, the peace that makes no sense, the protection you didn't even know you needed. You realize that God has been answering all along, just not in the language you expected. Not every answer comes as a voice. Some answers come as restraint. Some come as redirection. Some come as delay that later reveals wisdom. There are moments when God is silent because He is shielding you from information you are not ready to handle. Just as a parent doesn't explain every danger to a child, God sometimes withholds explanations to protect your peace. Knowing everything too soon could crush your spirit. Silence can be mercy. Silence can be kindness. Silence can be love that trusts timing more than urgency. When you understand that silence does not mean absence, you stop chasing signs and start strengthening trust. You stop demanding proof and start walking in obedience. You stop measuring God's presence by noise and start recognizing Him by consistency, by provision, by the quiet strength that carries you through days you never thought you'd survive, by the unseen hand that keeps doors closed until the right moment, by the calm that shows up in chaos, by the way you are still here, still standing, still moving forward, even when no voice is speaking and the night feels long. There is a weight attached to every blessing, every calling, every elevation in life. Success has weight. Responsibility has weight. Influence has weight. Answered prayers have weight. And God in His wisdom will never place a weight on you that you have not been trained to carry. When life feels heavy, when pressure increases, when expectations grow, it is not always a sign that something is wrong. Often, it is a sign that God is strengthening you for what is coming next. Training always feels harder than the moment of victory, but without it, the victory would crush you. In daily life, no one walks into a gym and lifts the heaviest weight on the first day. Muscles are developed gradually. The trainer increases resistance over time, not to injure, but to build strength. The burning sensation, the shaking, the soreness afterward, these are not signs of damage, they are signs of growth. God works in the same way. He increases pressure slowly, allowing your faith, patience, and endurance to expand. What feels like strain today is preparation for stability tomorrow. Many people ask God for promotion but are unprepared for the responsibility that comes with it. They want the title without the discipline, the platform without the maturity, the reward without the resilience. God sees beyond the request and looks at the capacity. Before He enlarges your territory, He enlarges your character. Before He increases your visibility, He increases your integrity. Before He blesses you publicly, He strengthens you privately. Training happens when no one is clapping. Look at how life prepares people for leadership. A person who manages a small team learns patience before managing a large organization. A parent learns endurance through sleepless nights before carrying the weight of guiding a child into adulthood. A student learns pressure through exams before handling real-world decisions. In every area of life, capacity comes before expansion. God follows this same principle. He allows you to face manageable challenges so you are not destroyed by major ones later. There are seasons when God allows burdens that feel unfair. You carry responsibilities others don't see. You face struggles others don't understand. You endure delays while watching others move ahead. But hidden inside that pressure is training. God is strengthening your emotional muscles, sharpening your discernment, deepening your dependence on Him. What looks like suffering on the outside is conditioning on the inside. When the real weight comes, you won't collapse, you will stand. Think about a bridge designed to carry heavy traffic. Before it is opened to the public, engineers test it with loads heavier than it will ever carry. They do this not to destroy the bridge, but to ensure it will hold when real pressure comes. God tests you the same way. He allows weight now so you don't break later. He allows stretching now so you don't snap under sudden success. He allows resistance now so you develop strength that lasts. In daily relationships, this training is evident too. Learning to forgive small offenses prepares you to handle deeper betrayals without becoming bitter. Learning to wait in minor delays prepares you to endure long seasons without losing hope. Learning to remain faithful in little things prepares you for greater trust. God uses ordinary frustrations to prepare you for extraordinary assignments. Nothing is wasted. Every tear, every struggle, every test is adding to your capacity. Sometimes the weight God trains you for is not material success, but spiritual authority. He is preparing you to pray with power, to speak with wisdom, to lead with compassion, to serve without ego. Spiritual weight requires humility, consistency, and surrender. Without training, spiritual authority becomes pride. Without preparation, influence becomes arrogance. God protects you by training you first. When you understand that God trains you for future weight, you stop resenting pressure and start respecting the process. You realize that the very thing trying to exhaust you is also strengthening you. You begin to see challenges as exercises, not attacks. You stop asking God to remove every difficulty and start asking Him to build you strong enough to carry what He has planned. Strength is not developed in ease. Capacity is not built in comfort. There will be moments when you feel stretched beyond what you can handle. That is often the sign Hat growth is happening at a deeper level. Muscles only grow when pushed past their current limits. Faith only grows when tested beyond convenience. God never overestimates your capacity. He knows exactly how much weight to apply, how long to apply it, and when to release it. The pressure has a purpose. The training has a timetable. What God is preparing to place in your hands requires a version of you that can stand firm, stay humble, and remain faithful under load. The process is not meant to break you, it is meant to build you. The training is not delaying the blessing, it is protecting it. And when the moment comes, when the weight is finally placed upon you, you will realize that nothing you went through was random. Nothing you carried was pointless, and nothing you endured was too much for the strength God was quietly building within you. Waiting is often misunderstood as weakness, delay, or wasted time. But in the language of faith, waiting is devotion in motion. It is worship without music, obedience without applause, trust without evidence. Anyone can praise God when doors open quickly, when prayers are answered loudly, when blessings arrive on schedule. But it takes a deeper faith to wait without complaining, to remain faithful without confirmation, to trust God when nothing is changing. Waiting is not doing nothing, it is choosing God again and again while standing still. In daily life, waiting reveals the condition of the heart. Think of a worker who shows up every day, gives their best, and waits patiently for promotion while others cut corners or quit too early. That consistency is a form of respect, discipline, and belief in the process. In the same way, when you continue to pray, serve, and believe while answers are delayed, you are honoring God more than any spoken words could. You are saying, I trust your timing more than my urgency. Waiting becomes worship when you refuse to manipulate outcomes, when you don't force relationships that God hasn't confirmed, when you don't rush decisions just to escape discomfort, when you don't lower your standards because silence feels unbearable. That restraint is reverence. It declares that God's will matters more than immediate relief. Many blessings are ruined, not because God said no, but because people couldn't wait long enough to hear His yes. Look at daily examples all around you. A farmer does not shout at the soil after planting seeds. He waters, protects, and waits. He trusts seasons he cannot control. A student does not receive a degree the day they enroll. They attend classes, pass exams, and wait through years of discipline. A mother carries a child for months before holding them. In every meaningful process, waiting is unavoidable, and in every case, waiting prepares the receiver to value what is coming. Waiting strips away entitlement. It humbles the soul. It teaches patience in a world addicted to speed. When you wait on God, you learn that you are not in control, and that realization is not weakness, it is freedom. You stop exhausting yourself trying to manage outcomes and start resting in God's sovereignty. Worship begins when surrender replaces anxiety. Many people pray, but few are willing to wait. Prayer asks, waiting trusts. Prayer speaks. Waiting listens. Prayer desires change. Waiting allows transformation. In waiting seasons, God often works more on you than on the situation. He shapes your character, adjusts your expectations, heals your motives, and strengthens your faith. The delay is not empty, it is full of purpose. In relationships, waiting can be painful but powerful. Waiting for reconciliation, waiting for healing, waiting for clarity, choosing not to react impulsively, not to speak out of hurt, not to walk away in anger. This kind of waiting honors God. It says, I value peace over pride, wisdom over impulse. That restraint is worship, because it reflects trust in God's ability to handle what you cannot. Waiting also teaches discernment. In the quiet, you learn the difference between God's voice and your emotions. You realize that not every open door is divine, and not every closed door is rejection. Waiting sharpens spiritual sensitivity. It trains you to recognize timing, alignment, and confirmation. Those who rush often miss God. Those who wait often hear Him clearly. There are moments when waiting feels like loss. Dreams feel delayed. Prayers feel unanswered. Hope feels stretched thin. But even then, waiting is not passive suffering. It is active faith. Continuing to believe when circumstances disagree is one of the highest expressions of worship. It declares that God's character is trustworthy, even when His actions are not immediately visible. In everyday struggles, waiting teaches gratitude. You begin to notice small mercies while longing for big breakthroughs. You learn to appreciate progress instead of perfection. You grow content without becoming complacent. Waiting balances desire with humility. It keeps you hungry without making you desperate. It keeps you hopeful without making you reckless. Waiting is worship because it places God above outcomes. It says, even if I don't understand, I will trust. Even if I don't see results, I will remain faithful. Even if the answer takes longer than expected, I will not walk away. That kind of faith moves heaven more than noise ever could. It is quiet devotion, steady obedience, unshaken belief. When you wait on God, you are not delaying your destiny, you are aligning with it. You are choosing depth over speed, foundation over flash, permanence over shortcuts. Waiting prepares your hands to receive without dropping what God places in them. It prepares your heart to steward blessings without losing humility. It prepares your spirit to handle joy without forgetting the source. Waiting is worship because it declares that God is enough even before He gives you what you asked for, because it trusts the giver more than the gift, because it honors the process as much as the promise, because it believes that what is being prepared in you is just as important as what is being prepared for you. Because in the stillness of waiting, faith learns to breathe, hope learns to stand, and the soul learns to rest in a God who is never late, even when the clock says otherwise. There are seasons when it feels like you've been pushed to the bay, ground. overlooked, unseen, and forgotten. Opportunities pass you by. Your efforts go unnoticed. Your voice seems unheard. In those moments, the heart often interprets hiding as rejection. But in God's economy, being hidden is often an act of protection, not punishment. God does not hide what is worthless. He hides what is valuable. What he intends to reveal later, he often conceals early. In daily life, valuable things are always protected. Jewels are locked in safes, not left on the street. Important documents are sealed, not displayed. New inventions are developed in secrecy before being released to the public. Protection always comes before presentation. When God hides you, he is guarding something precious: your calling, your character, your future. Exposure too early can damage what is not fully developed. Think of a child growing in the womb. For months, the baby is hidden, unseen, protected in darkness. That hidden season is not inactivity, it is intense development. Organs form, strength builds, identity takes shape. If the child were exposed too early, life would be at risk. In the same way, God hides you because the environment you are in right now is safer for growth than visibility would be. What feels like delay is actually divine care. In everyday experiences, people are often spared by delay. A job opportunity that didn't work out later reveals itself as a toxic environment. A relationship that ended early saves you from long-term damage. A door that stays closed protects you from being crushed by expectations you weren't ready to carry. God sees dangers you cannot see. His protection often looks like postponement, what you call missing out. God calls being spared. Hiding also protects you from premature criticism. When people see potential before maturity, they place pressure that can distort purpose. Early exposure invites opinions, comparisons, and judgments that can confuse identity. God shields you from voices that would speak too soon, too loud, and too wrong into your life. He allows you to develop confidence in him before facing the noise of the crowd. Strength formed in secret is not easily shaken in public. In daily skill building, this principle is clear. A musician practices in private long before performing on stage. An athlete trains away from cameras before competing in front of thousands. A leader learns quietly before leading loudly. Public performance without private preparation leads to public failure. God hides you so your foundation can be strong enough to support what he plans to reveal. Hidden seasons save you from visible collapse. Sometimes God hides you from people who would misuse access to you. Not everyone deserves to know your dreams, your plans, or your struggles. Some people admire your potential only to drain it. Others celebrate your rise only to resent it later. God removes you from environments where you would be misunderstood, undervalued, or exploited. Distance becomes defense. Separate ion becomes safety. Hiding also protects your heart. Visibility can inflate ego before humility is established. Success can distract before discipline is secured. Praise can intoxicate before identity is rooted. God is more concerned about who you become than how quickly you become known. He hides you so pride does not sabotage purpose. He hides you so applause does not replace prayer. He hides you so recognition does not outrun responsibility. In ordinary life, seasons of solitude often produce clarity. When noise is reduced, focus increases. When comparison disappears, contentment grows. When expectations are removed, authenticity emerges. God uses hidden seasons to realign your priorities, refine your motives, and heal internal wounds. Exposure before healing would reopen old injuries. Protection sometimes looks like isolation. There are moments when you feel frustrated watching others move ahead while you remain unseen. But comparison ignores preparation. Everyone's timeline is different because everyone's assignment carries a different weight. God hides you because what he plans to entrust to you requires stability, discernment, and spiritual depth. He is ensuring that when you are seen, you are ready. Not just talented, but grounded. Hiding does not mean inactivity. It is a season of intense inner work. Faith is deepened. Character is strengthened. Discernment is sharpened. Obedience is tested. God is teaching you how to rely on Him when no one else is watching. What you build in secret will sustain you in public. What you learn in hiding will protect you in exposure. When you understand that God hides you to protect you, resentment gives way to gratitude. You stop chasing visibility and start embracing preparation. You stop forcing doors and start trusting timing. You realize that being unseen for a season is not a sign of insignificance, but evidence of careful handling. God is not withholding good from you. He is preserving you for it. He is not delaying your future. He is defending it. He is not ignoring you. He is guarding you. There are moments when darkness feels endless, when nights stretch longer than you imagined, when hope feels tired and the waiting feels heavy. In those moments, the mind begins to lie, whispering that this is permanent, that nothing will change, that this pain is your new normal. But darkness has a limit. Night has an expiration. No matter how long it lasts, darkness is never final. It may stay for a season, but it cannot stay forever. The very nature of darkness is that it gives way to light. In daily life, this truth surrounds you, even when you don't notice it. Every night, no matter how deep or quiet, eventually surrenders to morning. The sun does not ask permission to rise. It does not struggle to appear. It comes because it was designed to come. In the same way, your season of darkness is not random or eternal. It has boundaries set by God. You may not know the exact hour, but the morning is already scheduled. Think about how storms work. When rain is pouring and thunder is loud, it feels like the sky will never clear. Roads flood, visibility drops, and movement slows. But storms do not camp permanently. Clouds release what they carry and then move on. Clear skies follow. The same sky that thundered becomes calm again. Darkness behaves the same way. It releases lessons, builds endurance, shapes faith, and then it passes. In everyday struggles, people often discover that the harder seasons are temporary chapters, not permanent stories. A student overwhelmed by exams later looks back and realizes that pressure built discipline. A person battling unemployment later recognizes how that season sharpened resilience and redirected purpose. A broken heart that once felt unbearable eventually heals and gains wisdom. What once felt endless becomes a memory. Darkness has a way of shrinking once you step into the light. Even nature understands this rhythm. Seeds buried in dark soil do not remain underground forever. They push upward, breaking through layers of resistance until they meet sunlight. The soil that once covered them becomes the foundation that supports them. Darkness does not destroy growth, it initiates it. If the seed could speak, it might think burial is the end, not realizing it is the beginning of emergence. In faith, darkness often precedes clarity. Confusion often comes before direction. Silence often comes before revelation. God rarely moves from comfort to comfort. He moves from strength to strength. The dark season is the passage, not the destination. It is the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. The discomfort you feel is evidence of transition. In daily human experience, endurance changes perspective. When you are inside the tunnel, all you see is shadow. But tunnels are designed to lead somewhere. Every step forward brings you closer to the exit, even if you cannot see it yet. Stopping in the tunnel makes it feel endless. Moving forward, even slowly, brings you closer to light. Faith keeps you walking when vision is limited. Dark seasons also teach appreciation for light. People who have never known struggle often underestimate peace. Those who have walked through darkness value clarity deeply. Gratitude grows in proportion to endurance. The joy that follows darkness carries depth, not shallow excitement. It is steady, rooted, and resilient. Light after darkness is not fragile, it is strong. In relationships, emotional darkness can feel isolating. Loneliness whispers that you will always feel unseen. Betrayal convinces you that trust is impossible. Loss tells you that joy has left forever. Yet countless people can testify that connection returns, trust rebuilds, and joy finds new expressions. Hearts heal. Laughter comes back. Life expands again. Darkness in the heart, like darkness in the sky, shifts with time and care. When life feels stalled, darkness can distort time. Minutes feel like hours, months feel like years. But growth does not measure time the way clocks do. Transformation works beneath the surface. Strength is forming while you feel weak. Wisdom is developing while you feel confused. Courage is growing while you feel afraid. The work is happening even when progress feels invisible. The dark always has an end because it is not powerful enough to sustain itself. Light does not fight darkness, it replaces it. When light arrives, darkness simply disappears. In the same way, when the season changes, struggle does not argue, it lifts. When healing comes, pain loosens its grip. When understanding arrives, confusion fades. When God brings you forward, what once trapped you can no longer hold you. Every person who has endured darkness and kept moving eventually discovers that the night did not defeat them. It refined them. It clarified their priorities. It strengthened their faith. It reshaped their character. The darkness did not define them, it developed them. What once felt like an ending revealed itself as a passage, a corridor leading from limitation to growth, from survival to strength, from questioning to confidence, from waiting to becoming, from endurance to renewal. There comes a moment when everything you endured finally makes sense, not because the pain disappears, but because your perspective changes. You realize that what you thought was delay was divine design. What you thought was silence was sacred instruction. What you thought was darkness was careful preparation. You understand that God was not working against you, He was working in you. And in that realization, strength rises quietly but firmly within your soul. People often say, if God is with me, why was it so hard? But the deeper truth is this: if God is shaping you for greatness, it has to be hard. Diamonds are not formed on the surface. Gold is not refined in comfort. Strength is not developed in ease. God never wastes pain. He recycles it into purpose. Every tear you cried watered the ground of your becoming. Every night you survived stretched your capacity to carry what is coming next. Remember this truth: when you walk forward, what didn't break you trained you. What didn't destroy you disciplined you. What didn't end you refined you. You were not buried, you were planted. You were not forgotten, you were protected. You were not delayed, you were prepared. God trusted you enough to develop you when no one was watching, because He knew you could handle the process without quitting. The world celebrates overnight success, but heaven celebrates endurance. The world applauds visibility, but God honors faithfulness. The world rewards speed, but God rewards depth. That is why your journey looked different. That is why your season took longer. That is why your path felt lonelier. God was shaping you into someone who could stand firm, stay humble, and remain faithful when the spotlight finally comes. Let this truth settle deep in your spirit. Dark seasons do not cancel divine promises. Silence does not erase calling. Waiting does not weaken destiny. Hidden years do not reduce value. If anything, they increase it. What God builds slowly, He establishes permanently. What He prepares privately, He sustains publicly. What He forms in the dark, He reveals with power in the light. There will come a day when you look back and thank God for the doors that didn't open, the prayers that took time, the answers that came late. You will realize that if things had worked out the way you wanted, you would have been unready for what you now carry with grace. God's timing did not deny you. It protected you. His process did not harm you. It strengthened you. So stand tall now, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer the same. Walk forward with quiet confidence. You don't need to explain your journey to everyone. Only God knows the cost of your obedience. Keep trusting. Keep moving. Keep believing. The same God who walked with you in the dark will walk before you in the light. And when the morning comes, and it will come, you will not emerge empty-handed. You will come out wiser, stronger, rooted, unshakable. You will carry peace that doesn't panic, faith that doesn't collapse, and strength that doesn't boast. You will know, deep in your soul, the dark did not defeat you. It developed you, and the God who started this work in you was faithful enough to finish it.